Alright, thought I would make a video about attaching handles. When I make these little handles, they're like the wishbone handles, meaning it's fatter, skinnier, and then fat again. This one's already kind of set up. But when I make them, I pull them, first I pinch them out a little bit, and then I pull them to give them a pulled look, and then I set them up to dry like this with the intention that these chunks down here are gonna get cut off. That's one way I do it. And this one is different because it's separate and it's still wet. But this guy, how I have this set up, is another type that I do it, where I'm really kind of intentionally setting up the shape of that handle, and I'll cut probably here and down there. But this, I just let it rest like that. And usually I attach them when they're a little wet, and it lets me reclaim this clay that would just go to waste. I hate wasting, so anyway, yeah, so here I have a little mug. I have a bunch of tumblers I threw. These guys, I like to sometimes not put handles on them, because sometimes I think the shape itself just works beautifully without a handle. So I start off with the ones that I think definitely need handles. This one's a little boring to me, so I'll put a handle on it. And then I find the part of the pot that is least appealing to me. With these, if it is like a big swirl where the form of the pot has been interrupted, I actually think about like where along the swirl it makes sense to attach. And if I'm attaching here to here, or like maybe in the crack, a little bit of a lift. So that varies with these guys. But so I already cut one end of this. How I cut them is I use these metal ribs, and I like them because you can bend it and then kind of slice with it. But I'm just gonna cut it to make it less heavy right now. I'll do another cut again once I attach it, because that's the bottom. This will be the top, which I cut to fit already. I slipped and scored. I should probably do a little more. So, and then this guy, I just kind of check the shape again. A nice little almond works well. Wet it. Always have a towel or a sponge to wipe your hands on, or an apron. Okay. And then generally thinking about like, do you want the handle to come straight out? Do you want it to have some lift? Do you want it to go down? Because that, you should think about how you slice your handle depending on if you want it up or down. So I'm gonna just score this up a little bit. The cup is quite a bit drier than the handle, so I'm gonna babysit it and keep watching it over a couple days as I let it dry slowly to really make sure that it's not popping off. I'm just adding a little more to match the shape of the handle. Yeah. Okay, so tag it, attach it, put it on, slip oozes out. I give it a good wiggle. Just kind of wiggle it into place. Being careful not to disform the shape that much. So at this point it looks like this. kind of messy, but that's okay. Now I go about using several different tools to clean up and attach it, compress the seams. I use one of these rubber guys, both ends. This end's great. I also use a paintbrush, and I use my fingernail. So it's just a matter of getting it on there and compressed on there. So really just paying attention to that line. If you have long fingernails, it really makes this pretty hard to do because you end up nicking your pot. Mine are pretty long right now. And then I'm going to go under and make sure this edge looks good, because once you put the handle fully on, this is a lot harder to get to. So now I'm using my nail to compress. And mimicking that almond shape still. I'm using a little bit of I have a little bit of a nail on there, and that helps draw a line, keeping it crisp. Sometimes I like blending the clay so that you can't tell it's like an attached separate piece of clay. These I like that look of it being a separate piece of clay. Okay, so now I'm eyeing up, making sure it's straight. And then I'm going to take this guy again. And this time I want to think about where I'm attaching it. If it's on the trimmed part or up here. I like to attach it like right where it meets, so then when I go to push it, it pushes it up a little bit. And so that means I need to cut it that way to match the slope of that. So I'm cutting it down. Oh, see, I always get that wrong. I did the opposite. It needs to be the opposite. Why do I do that? Okay, so it needs to be this way. So one way to think about it is matching up this with the slope of what you're trying to attach. So if this is going that way, then this also needs to go that way. It's okay, I have extra clay, it's fine. Would have been better to do it right the first time, but okay. So now that cut will fit onto that slope when I press it down. I'll add a little bit of slip or create slip here, just right at this line. Because the cup is harder than the handle, I think this needs to be scored more than the handle part. I might not even score because that's pretty hard to get to. So I'm gonna just push it into that scored part. So at this point, it's hard to do this and show it at the same time, but it's just kind of this working of the clay. Sometimes I put my thumb behind it to give it support. I push it down, and then I think about the shape that I want the clay, or how I want it to appear to be attached. So thinking about that at the same time as I'm compressing it onto it. Again, I'm just using my finger to compress and the nail to clean it up. Yeah, that works. It's a little smaller than I wished because I screwed it up, but what happens? Yeah. I'll just take a sponge and clean up any of the excessive water markings. And looking at it, it seems like it has a little bit extra clay right here, so I'm just going to take my finger and kind of smooth that out and down. I think what's important with handles is this negative space, the inside curve, and it being a continuous curve. So handles are hard. It's easy to muck them up. Some people like adding clay in here. I haven't figured out how to do it and make it look good yet. So, yeah, that's a handle, and let it dry slowly. Come back and check it, and take your rubber tool and compress those lines, the attachment lines, if you see any little cracks happening. As it's drying slowly. Yeah, I think it looks alright. It's like a two finger handle. Maybe it'll be one finger once. It shrinks in the kiln. I'll do another. Maybe I'll do this one fast.